Hi, this is Hank reporting from Kyiv, and this is my update on Russian-Ukrainian war. Let's see what happened around Ukraine in the last 24 hours. Talanted Traitor. World Central Kitchen attacked. Massive anti-corruption operation. $2.5 billion loan from UK. Ukrainian linguist killed. In this photo you see Alexander Makhnev, who was born in Ukrainian city of Lugansk and moved to Kyiv in 2014 with the beginning of the war when Russia invaded our territories. In 2015 he started studying in the Kyiv Polytechnic Institute radio electronic devices course and boasted of awards he received from Ukrainian scientist Mikhailo Zgurovsky and the second president of Ukraine Leonid Kuchma. After that he transferred to the Moscow Institute of Physics and Technology. In April 2022, Makhnev co-authored a paper as a part of Russian team at CERN Geneva experiment, and a few months later he joined the Straton Designs Bureau, which makes the drones that Russia's army use against us here in Ukraine. There is both good and bad in this news. Of course, it is good that in world history there are so many scientists who were born, raised or formed as individuals in Ukraine. The inventor of the helicopter Igor Sikorsky, the developer of space rocket Sergei Korolev, the aircraft designer Oleg Antonov, and thousands of others like this guy. The bad thing is that people like Alexander Makhnev decided to use their knowledge to destroy their native land. This is exactly what can be called Ukrainians are shooting at themselves, and it's not all the how Russian presented in the news. Our army does not shoot at our civilians, but our traitors make equipment for the Russian army that shoots at our civilians, and this is a tragedy. Alexander was once included in the book Inventors of Ukraine, the elite of the state. Now Makhnev already leads the engineering team, and under his leadership a team of Russian so-called scientists copied the American Altius 600 drone, which is United States provided to Ukraine. These drones can be used both for reconnaissance purposes and carry a warhead, flying more than 400 kilometers. On the Straton website you can find the Lastochka drone, which copies the American Altius 600. I believe that the young scientist made an all-in bet that Russia would win and he would not be held accountable for his criminal complicity in the genocide of his people. But now, after 30 months of full-scale war, I think he understands that the future as a scientist on the international stage he no longer has. Prison awaits, Sasha. World Central Kitchen published this photo of an armored Mercedes G-Wagon that was attacked by a Russian drone. I emphasize the word Russian because they clearly indicated this, not as fans of excessive political correctness often say, some kind of FPV drone. Below the video there will be a link to the official statement. Here is a quote from it. "Humanitarians are not and can never be a target," said CEO Erin Gore. "Safety is fundamental for our ability to show up when disaster strikes and urgently feed communities in the most challenging situations." Again, I don't want to say that anything Russian always means something bad just because it's Russian and I'm on the other side in this war. No, I try to keep an open mind and I like facts. When Russian missiles fly into a hospital with sick children, when Russian shells burn down my house, or when Russian missiles are shot down over me at night, I'm sure who is bad. When a Russian drone attacks a car with a huge colorful World Central Kitchen stickers, it's definitely bad, but I doubt that Russian pilot even knows English to understand what those bright stickers mean. A massive operation is underway throughout Ukraine to arrest those who were associated with major fraud. These people stole approximately $3.5 million from Army Support Fund. It is reported that the security services conducted 70 searches and 30 participants in the criminal scheme will face trial in the future. Here you can see how investigators present these documents of suspicion. In our country, during an investigation, a person first receives an official suspicion and then goes through a trial according to all the laws. $3.5 million is certainly a large sum. This is already organized crime which carries more severe punishment. In this photo, it's interesting that you see the mayor of the city of Belgorod-Dnestrovsky, Vitaly Grazdanin, who is detained by an employee of the Security Service of Ukraine during a search in the city hall. I don't know if it's related to the previous scheme, but I decided to combine these two Friday news into one block. For me, these are good signals. It means our state is working to fight corruption. This means that in order to join the European Union and NATO, we need to show a crystal clear state system. This may sound a little strange, but I'm glad that these two incentives keep our officials working. It will be even better when those who want to steal money will be simply afraid to steal. In my opinion, corruption should become unacceptable in society itself, so that people are disgusted by it. Fortunately, in my circle of people with whom I now communicate, and these are mainly people aged from 15 to 45 years, the majority actively oppose corruption in their own initiative. Today, President Zelensky and his team are in the UK. The results of his trip will be known in a few days, most likely by Monday. What is already known is that they have signed a loan agreement for a period of 15 years with the possibility of extension. According to this document, we will receive funding in the amount of $2.5 billion for the purchase of military equipment of NATO standards. Here I don't fully understand what this means. We will be able to buy what we need from our partners, or this money can also be used for the production of our own military equipment. First of all, this concerns long-range missiles, and Ukraine has at least 2 projects that could become a game-changer in this war. The already known Neptune, which we used to think a cruiser Moscow, and the second project Grim 2, which means Thunder 2 in English, which looks very interesting on paper, but as far as I understand it has not yet been finished and used on the battlefield. In any case, if we get help on credit, okay. The main thing is to give us these weapons so that we can save the country. Credit is a wonderful tool, and I have been saying for a long time that if you cannot or do not want to help us for ideological reasons, then let it be beneficial to you in another form. I thank the UK and I'm very glad that we have such partners. This is not flattery. I really would rather communicate with the British than with those who sell Putin drones or ancient artillery shells. You know who I mean. After I finished writing the text for this video, the terrible news appeared that Irina Farion, a Ukrainian linguist and national politician who served as deputy, was shot dead in Lviv in western Ukraine. She was also a professor at the Department of Ukrainian Language at Lviv Polytechnic. This woman was, as they say, a very inconvenient person, meaning a principled person. I don't know her story very well, but I heard of a recent law scandal. Irina spoke publicly about Russian-speaking Ukrainian military personnel, quote, "I cannot call them Ukrainians since they do not speak Ukrainian, then let them call themselves Russians," and this caused an indignation among the military and politicians. At Lviv Polytechnic, where Irina taught, there was a large-scale demonstration by students and she was fired from her position. In this situation, I want to say that many Ukrainians speak Russian as their native language. This is a consequence of 70 years of communism, which eradicated national cultures, languages, and traditions. I come from a Russian-speaking family myself, and before the full-scale invasion, I always spoke Russian. Now I have switched to Ukrainian in the public space and I write either in Ukrainian or in English. I sometimes talk to myself in Russian because that's how my consciousness has been formed over 37 years of life. I understand that many people find it difficult to change such an important habit, but at the same time I understand that it is extremely important to eradicate what the Soviet regime forced you to love or accept as your own. If I had the opportunity to choose now, I would always speak Ukrainian and would not accept any Russian culture. I'll explain why. Now, when this topic has become so acute in our society, when I see how Russians captured my hometown and immediately began to burn Ukrainian books from our Mariupol University PDTU, they immediately withdrew the sign at the entrance to the city with the Ukrainian letter I with a dot as in English into Russian I, which looks like the English U. If they fight it, then it's important, right? In Ukraine, I never had any problem speaking Russian. Nobody oppressed me, and I'll remind you that I am the representative of that exact people of Donbass. But it was the Russian invasion that radicalized my attitude towards their culture. Not terrible Ukrainian neo-Nazi mutants from Russian propaganda, but just Russian soldiers who came here with weapons. It's that simple. Let's return to Irina. I definitely do not support her position and calling names on Russian-speaking military personnel who defend this country at the cost of their lives is not right. In this situation, we can say that she went to the right goal in the wrong way. Either way, I feel sorry for the person. As one of the soldiers with whom she had that conflict wrote, "Only Russians can fight against children and women. There is no honor or dignity in this. Attacking an unarmed person with a gun is disgusting." Today, a big festival begins in Kyiv, which will last 3 days, the Atlas Weekend. Previously, world-famous stars were brought to it, the Prodigy, Kasabian, Chemical Brothers, and many others. And I won a free ticket for all 3 days. Sure, I could go as a journalist for free and just photograph the show. By the way, my portfolio includes about 200 world-famous musicians. I used to really love concerts. Yes, we managed to organize festivals to help people relieve stress, and from these festivals, a lot of donations come for the army. But since the start of the full-scale war, I have not been able to go to entertainment events. It may be a little wrong not to allow myself to have fun, but morally I can do that when I know that people I know are in the trenches fighting and holding the Russian occupiers. Psychologists will say that it's wrong to suppress some of your feelings, but I'm not in the mood to have fun. Perhaps I'll go and see my volunteer friends who will be there collecting donations for the military, but most likely I'll work as usual because we have not won yet. Thanks to everyone who has supported us for 877 days during the hot phase of this war. Take care, and I hope to see you tomorrow.